Welcome to the Dr. Misha podcast.
Yep.
Today we're diving into The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Oh, yeah.
This book has captivated leaders and strategists and even soccer players for centuries, right?
Jeez.
It's pretty mind-blowing how a text from around 500 BC is still so relevant today.
I know.
From boardrooms to battlefields and maybe even our own lives. What do you think?
Well, what's fascinating is that The Art of War isn't just a military manual. It's almost like a philosophy of conflict.
Okay.
It's less about brute force and more about understanding the dynamics of power in any situation.
Oh, so it's like a cheat code for human interaction. I mean, I've heard the name Sun Tzu thrown around.
Yeah.
But I never realized how deeply this book has influenced, everything.
Right. Well, think of it as a blueprint for strategic thinking.
Okay.
Sun Tzu believed that knowing yourself and your opponent is paramount.
Right.
He stressed meticulous planning, understanding your strengths and weaknesses, and gathering intelligence on your enemy, whether that's a rival company or just a tough negotiation.
That makes sense. But wouldn't all this intel gathering take forever?
Yeah.
How can you be swift and decisive like the book emphasizes
Right.
if you're stuck in research mode?
Right. Sun Tzu actually addresses that.
Good.
He uses the analogy of a hawk.
Okay.
Powerful, precise, but it doesn't just randomly attack.
Right.
It observes, waits for the right moment, then strikes with speed.
Right.
The preparation is what makes the action so effective.
Okay. That's a cool visual. So it's not just about rushing in.
Right.
It's about informed action.
Exactly.
But there's also that famous quote, all warfare is based on deception.
Right.
That's a bit unsettling, isn't it? Makes you think about fake news and all that.
Right. And this is where The Art of War gets really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Sun Tzu was a master of psychological warfare.
Okay.
He believed in creating confusion, even using spies to spread misinformation.
Wow.
This wasn't about cruelty, but about gaining a strategic edge.
So you're saying that in a world overflowing with information, Sun Tzu would be all about filtering, analyzing, and maybe even weaponizing that information.
Absolutely. He'd likely say that discerning truth from falsehood is as crucial today as it was on ancient battlefields.
Right.
That's why critical thinking and diverse perspectives are so important to avoid being manipulated by those playing the deception game.
That's a powerful takeaway for anyone, really, not just generals.
Right.
It makes you realize how these ancient principles are surprisingly relevant in our modern world. But before we go deeper into specific tactics, can you give us a quick history lesson? What was going on when The Art of War was written?
So imagine ancient China, the Warring States period. It was a time of constant conflict, shifting alliances, and brutal power struggles between rival states. Kind of like a real-life Game of Thrones, but with swords and chariots instead of dragons.
Wow, so this book wasn't written in some peaceful ivory tower. It was forged in the fires of real conflict. No wonder it's so intense.
Exactly. This context is crucial to understanding the book's pragmatism.
Okay.
Sun Tzu wasn't a pacifist. He was a realist.
Right.
He aimed to minimize casualties, but ultimately his goal was victory.
So achieving victory by any means necessary, that raises some interesting ethical questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The Art of War is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
Sun Tzu doesn't dwell on morality. He presents his principles in a very matter-of-fact way.
Okay.
It's up to the reader to grapple with the ethical implications.
That's a good reminder that even with a strategic cheat code, the choices we make ultimately determine the outcome. But speaking of the author, who was this Sun Tzu guy anyway?
Yeah.
Was he a real person or some kind of mythical figure like King Arthur?
Well, that's a mystery that's fascinated scholars for centuries.
Really?
For a long time, he was believed to be a brilliant general who served a Chinese prince around 500 BC.
Okay.
But more recent scholarship suggests The Art of War might be a collection of wisdom compiled by multiple military thinkers over generations.
So it's like a greatest hits album of ancient military strategy.
Exactly.
Kind of makes it even more impressive, doesn't it?
Yes, it suggests that these ideas weren't just one person's brilliant insight, but rather battle-tested strategies honed and refined over time.
Wow.
It's like a distillation of centuries of human conflict condensed into one powerful book.
This is already blowing my mind. We've got intrigue, timeless wisdom, and even a bit of mystery surrounding the authorship. But before we get lost in the historical weeds, I want to bring it back to our listeners. What's something that jumps out at you from the text that they could apply to their own lives right now?
One word: adaptability.
Okay.
Sun Tzu uses the analogy of water,
Mm-hmm.
which flows around obstacles, finding the path of least resistance.
Right.
This isn't about being passive,
Right.
but about being flexible in your thinking. In today's fast-paced world, clinging to rigid plans can be a recipe for disaster.
So being more like water, huh? Going with the flow, but in a strategic way.
Exactly.
That's a really cool concept. It seems like Sun Tzu was a big fan of using nature to illustrate his points.
He was, and there's a lot more to explore there. In fact, Sun Tzu's ideas were deeply influenced by Taoist philosophy, which emphasizes harmony with nature, understanding natural cycles, and acting in alignment with the Tao, or the way of the universe.
Okay, now we're getting philosophical.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a connection here between ancient wisdom and some of the modern trends we're seeing, like mindfulness and systems thinking.
You're absolutely right. Sun Tzu's emphasis on adaptability, understanding interconnectedness, and acting in harmony with larger forces is incredibly relevant to how we approach problems today, whether it's in business, relationships, or even personal growth.
This is getting deep. But before we dive into the Taoist rabbit hole, let's take a quick pause. We'll be back in just a moment to unpack more of Sun Tzu's strategic brilliance.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the art of war. Before the break, we were talking about Sun Tzu's emphasis on adaptability and its connection to Taoist philosophy. It's fascinating how this ancient text offers insights that are still so relevant in our modern, fast-paced world.
Yeah, totally. It's like Sun Tzu was a time traveler dropping these wisdom bombs that resonate just as strongly today as they did centuries ago.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to get tactical. Can we dig into some specific strategies from the book that people can actually use in their daily lives?
Absolutely. One of the most powerful concepts in the art of war is choosing your battles.
Okay.
Sun Tzu stresses that you shouldn't waste your resources on conflicts that don't matter strategically. Focus your energy on battles that give you the greatest advantage.
Oh, that's something I think we can all relate to, right? It's
Yeah.
like that feeling when you're about to get into an argument with somebody
Uh-huh.
and then you realize, wait, is this really worth my time and energy?
Exactly. Sun Tzu would say that sometimes the most strategic move is to simply walk away.
Right.
But when you do choose to engage, he emphasizes acting with speed and decisiveness.
Oh.
He compares a skilled general to a hawk,
Okay.
swiftly seizing opportunities before the opponent can react.
So it's not enough to just be smart and strategic.
Right.
You also need to be able to execute your plans, like quickly and effectively.
Exactly.
Makes me think about how businesses are constantly like adapting and launching new products and trying to stay ahead of the competition. It's like a modern day battlefield out there.
It absolutely is. And this is where Sun Tzu's ideas about speed and adaptability become even more relevant. In today's world, those who can pivot quickly, seize opportunities, and make decisions on the fly have a huge advantage.
So if we're talking about like a business context, knowing your enemy could mean conducting like thorough competitor analysis, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, their market positioning, and even anticipating their next move.
Exactly.
It's almost like corporate espionage.
Yeah.
But in a legal and ethical way, of course.
Precisely. Sun Tzu would likely approve of that approach. Remember, knowledge is power.
Right.
And in the business world, information is often the most valuable currency.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget about the personal applications of the art of war.
Okay.
This book is also about mastering the art of human interaction.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How can we use these like battle tactics to win in our personal relationships?
Well, think about the principle of choosing your battles.
Okay.
How many arguments have you had that were ultimately about something trivial?
Right. So many.
Sun Tzu would say that sometimes the most strategic move is to let go of the small stuff and focus on the bigger picture.
Such a good point. It's easy to get caught up in those little annoyances. But sometimes it's better to pick your battles and seed your energy for the things that really matter.
Right.
But what about when those bigger issues DO come up?
Yeah.
How do we navigate those conflicts constructively?
This is where Sun Tzu's emphasis on understanding your opponent comes into play.
Okay.
In a personal relationship, that means truly listening to your partner, trying to understand their perspective,
Right.
and finding common ground. It's about seeing the situation from their point of view, even if you don't agree with it.
It's almost like putting yourself in their shoes, right?
Exactly.
Trying to see the world through their eyes. But that's easier said than done,
It is.
especially when emotions are running high.
It definitely takes practice. But remember, Sun Tzu believed that the most skilled generals are those who can achieve victory without fighting.
Oh.
In a relationship, that means finding ways to resolve conflict through communication, compromise, and empathy.
So it's not about winning or losing. It's about finding a solution that works for both parties.
Exactly. And this brings us back to the idea of adaptability. In a relationship, just like in war, you need to be able to adjust your approach based on the situation. Sometimes you need to be assertive and stand your ground. Other times, it's better to be flexible and willing to compromise.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. It's not about being rigid or always trying to force your will on the other person.
Right.
It's about being responsive and adapting your strategy based on the dynamics of the relationship.
Right. And remember, Sun Tzu was a master of psychological warfare. Now, I'm not suggesting you use deception in your relationships.
Right.
But what we can learn from him is the power of influence and persuasion. It's about understanding what motivates people, what their fears and desires are, and using that knowledge to communicate more effectively.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So instead of manipulating someone, it's about understanding them better and communicating in a way that resonates with their values and motivations. It's like emotional intelligence, but with a strategic twist.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And it's not just about getting what you want. It's about building stronger, more fulfilling relationships based on mutual understanding and respect.
Okay, I'm starting to see how the art of war can be like a guide, not just for winning battles,
Right.
but for navigating the complexities of human relationships,
Yeah.
It's about understanding the dynamics of power, but using that knowledge ethically and constructively.
And remember, the art of war is not just about conflict. It's also about avoiding it whenever possible.
Right.
Sun Tzu emphasizes the importance of diplomacy, negotiation, and finding peaceful solutions. He believed that the best victory is one that is achieved without bloodshed.
So it's not about being a warmonger, it's about being a strategist,
Right.
both in conflict and in peace. I'm really starting to appreciate the depth and nuance of this book.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore in terms of specific tactics, the historical context, and how Sun Tzu's ideas have been interpreted and applied throughout history.
I'm eager to dive deeper into all of that, but for now, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in just a moment to continue our exploration of the art of war. Welcome back to our deep dive into the art of war. We've been talking about how Sun Tzu's principles can be applied to everything, from business negotiations to personal relationships. But I'm curious, how does this ancient wisdom hold up in a world that's like constantly changing? I mean, we're not exactly facing off with swords and chariots anymore.
That's a great question. It's true that the nature of conflict has evolved dramatically since Sun Tzu's time.
All right.
But the underlying principles of strategy, understanding your opponent, and using information to your advantage, I think, are more relevant than ever.
So it's about adapting the principles to the specific challenges we face today. Like, how would Sun Tzu approach something like cyber warfare, where the battlefield is digital and the weapons are bits and bytes?
Oh, he'd probably be fascinated by it.
Really?
Think about his emphasis on deception and psychological warfare.
Right.
In the digital age, misinformation can spread like wildfire, shaping public opinion, influencing the outcome of elections. It's almost like Sun Tzu anticipated the power of information warfare.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's like he was a tech visionary centuries ahead of his time.
Yeah.
But with so much information and misinformation swirling around, how can we even know what's real anymore?
Right.
It feels like we're constantly bombarded with these conflicting narratives.
That's a challenge even Sun Tzu might have struggled with.
Yeah.
But I think he would emphasize the importance of critical thinking, questioning assumptions, and not being swayed by emotional appeals or propaganda. He'd remind us that deception is always a factor in conflict.
Right.
And we need to be vigilant in discerning truth from falsehood.
So it's not just about like consuming information, it's about analyzing it, questioning it, and looking at it from different angles.
Right.
Kind of like how Sun Tzu stressed the importance of knowing your enemy, but also knowing yourself and your own biases.
Exactly. He was a master strategist because he was able to see the world from multiple perspectives, to anticipate his opponent's moves, and to adapt his plans accordingly. He understood that knowledge is power, but only if it's used wisely and strategically.
That's such a crucial point, especially in today's world where we're like constantly being bombarded with information from all sides.
Right.
We need to be more discerning, more critical, and more willing to challenge our own assumptions.
I think that's one of the most valuable lessons we can take away from The Art of War. It's not just a book about winning battles. It's a guide to navigating the complexities of life, making strategic decisions, and achieving our goals, whatever those may be.
It's almost like a philosophy for life, a way of approaching challenges with a strategic mindset. Whether you're facing, a tough negotiation, a difficult decision, or simply trying to figure out your next move.
I agree. And as Sun Tzu himself said, every battle is won before it's ever fought.
Oh, wow.
That means putting in the time and effort to plan, to strategize, to understand the landscape, and to position ourselves for success.
Well said. It's been an incredible journey exploring the depths of the art of war.
It has.
We've covered so much ground, from the historical context to the core principles, and even delving into the mind of Sun Tzu himself. But as we wrap up our deep dive, I'm curious, what's one key takeaway you hope our listeners will carry with them?
I hope they'll embrace the idea of being more strategic in their thinking.
Okay.
It's not about being manipulative or ruthless,
Right.
but rather about being thoughtful, deliberate, and intentional in our actions. It's about understanding the dynamics of power and using that knowledge ethically and constructively.
I couldn't agree more. The art of war is a reminder that we all have the power to be strategic thinkers, to make calculated decisions, and to shape our own destiny. And even though it was written centuries ago, its wisdom is timeless and applicable to every aspect of our lives.
Indeed. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe by applying some of Sun Tzu's principles,
Right.
we can all become a little bit wiser, a little bit more strategic, and a little bit more successful in navigating the complexities of the world around us.
Well, I think we've given our listeners plenty to ponder. It's been a true deep dive,
It has.
exploring not just the tactics of war, but the very essence of strategy and human nature. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on the Dr. Misha Online Podcast. We hope this deep dive has inspired you to think more strategically about the challenges and opportunities in your own life. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the game.